Hello everybody, so in today's video I will be showing you how to connect DBT to Postgres database running on AWS environment. So let's get to it. Okay, so like I mentioned in today's video, I will be walking you through the process of connecting DBT Core to PostgreSQL database running on AWS environment. And once we have our connections established, I will also be showing you how you can use DBT to transform your PostgreSQL data and write a transformed data back to Postgres database. Okay, so let's get to it. So the first thing that you need to do is to have your database created. So right here, I am on my AWS environment and I have my PostgreSQL database created right here. If you want to know the steps of creating PostgreSQL database on AWS, I previously made a video where I went through the steps of creating that. So I have put the video for that in the description of this video. So please do take a look if you want to know the steps of creating PostgreSQL database. Okay, so like I mentioned again, I have my database created right here, and this is what we will be using to set up our DBT. Okay, so we will be setting up our DBT to connect to this database, and this is the endpoint right here. So just a few things before we go over to DBT. You will see that I have my of course my endpoint here. This is the endpoint, or the name of the host, or the server name that we'll be using to connect to. And you can see right here, this is very important. When you are creating your PostgreSQL database, you have to make it publicly accessible. So this is so that you are able to connect from your local machine, because if you don't do this, then you will not be able to connect from your local environment. And then the other thing that we also did in the last video is to make sure that we open the security group to accept traffic from our local machine. So definitely do take a look into that video, because I went through the very basic steps of how you make sure that you are able to connect to your database from your local machine. Okay, and so once you have that one set up, now let's switch over to DBT and make the connection to this database. So to do that, I'm just going to switch over to my Visual Studio Code. I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code, and we will go ahead and make the connection to our PostgreSQL database. So this is my Visual Studio, and what I will do is I will open one of the folders that I've been using. If you have been watching my previous videos, I've been using this repo quite a lot. So I created a repo on my home directory. I've created a folder on my home directory called repos, and this is my home directory right here. So I'm just going to open that folder, this one right here, and I will bring it over to Visual Studio Code. Okay, so as you can see here, I have quite a number of projects here. You can see I have Postgre here. This is for my local connection. I downloaded PostgreSQL on my local machine, and this one is the connection I made for DBT. So I also did a video on that. There's also one here for Redshift and for Snowflake, so and BigQuery as well, as you can see here. So what I will do is I will create an additional we'll create additional folder right here for the Postgre database that is running on AWS. Okay, so just I just want to walk you quickly on my setup right here, so you don't get confused. Okay, so and so once this one is up, the next thing that we need to do is to install DBT Core. So DBT Core is the CLI tool that we will be using in this case. So there are two versions of DBT. You can run DBT in the cloud, and that is a premium version. You may have to pay for that. The other one is through the CLI. This one is free. You don't have to pay for this, and this is what I've been mostly using in the videos I've made for DBT so far. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do here then is to create to install DBT Core, and also to install the Postgre DBT adapter, and I will be showing you that in a minute. So the first thing that we need to do is to create a Python virtual environment, because we want to install the library, the DBT Core, inside a Python virtual environment. We don't want to install it globally. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to create a virtual environment right here in my root folder, repos here, and I will call it so we'll create a virtual environment, and I will call this one dbt v and v like this. Okay, so this is going to create a virtual environment right here, And what we'll do is we want to activate this virtual environment. So to do that, we just we will do source if you're on Mac. If you are on Windows, you do it differently. But so if you're on Mac like myself, just do dbt, do source, and we want to go over to the virtual environment, and then there's a pin folder here, and there's activate option here to activate the virtual machine. So that is right here. If you go here, this is a command that we are activating. Okay, so this will activate our virtual environment, and this means now that we are able to install libraries inside our virtual environment. So as you can see here, this one is showing here, and this means that we are now inside our virtual environment. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do then is to install the DBT Core and the PostgreSQL adapter. So to do that, if you just go to Postgres DBT adapter, Postgres DBT adapter, not SQL adapter, Postgres DBT adapter. So this is the documentation here on DBT page, and I will be putting this in the description of this video. But basically this page just shows you what you need to do in order to make your connection successful to your Postgres database. So as you can see here, we have what we need to install is this package called dbt-postgres, and it shows you right here how to do that. So once you create your virtual environment, all you have to do is just run this command right here. Okay, so you can use, if you already have Python installed, you can just use pip to install the libraries. So we'll be doing this. So we'll just go ahead and copy this, and we will bring it over to our Visual Studio Code right here, like this. And I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so and then we just hit enter. Okay, so this is going to then install DBT Core. Okay, so this is going to install DBT Core. As you can see, there are two libraries that we're installing here, DBT Core and dbt-postgres. So this one will install this dbt CLI, and this is the adapter. So dbt-postgres is the adapter that will enable us to connect to our Postgres database from dbt. Okay, so now let's go over here, and okay, so this one is done. So I'm just going to clear this, and now we have installed our dbt-postgres as well as DBT Core. So what is the next thing that we need to do? So the next thing that we need to do is then to initialize our project to connect to the Postgres database. So to do that, all you have to do is just run this command dbt init, and that is going to start the setup process. So as you can see right here, it's asking you to enter the name for your project, and this one we are going to call this one dbt. Actually, we are going to call this one Postgres RDS, because we are running this in AWS RDS. So I'm just going to name this one Postgres_RDS. Okay, and you just click enter, and you can see right here the database that it's asking you here which database you want to use. So right here I'm just going to use Postgres database, which is the only one that is showing here. If you have more than one database right here, for example, if you used the requirements file here, if you put your Postgres here like this here, and just run the requirements file with the rest of these other databases, then it will be showing you more databases here. So it will be showing you Redshift. For example, we have Redshift, we have Snowflake, we have BigQuery. It will be showing more than one, and then you can just choose Postgres on that one. So I'm just going to choose here number 1, because that's the only database that we have here. And now I'm just going to increase this one here. And now right here, you can see that it's asking you for the host name. Now this is very important. The host name that we are using here is not localhost. So if you watched my previous video, the one that we used to create this one, you will see that we used localhost. But for this one, because we are connecting to AWS, we want to bring the host name from AWS. So we will switch over to AWS RDS, and the host name that we want to put right there is this one here. So I'm just going to copy this endpoint, and I will bring it and just paste it right here like that. Okay, and by default the port is 5432, so that's okay. We will just click enter, and the username for this one, by default Postgres gives you Postgres as the username, so we'll just go ahead and use Postgres as a username. So just enter that. And then for the password, just enter the password. So here the password that you want to enter here is the one that you use to create your database when you are creating it in AWS. Okay. If you ended up creating another username after you launch your database and that username has login credentials, then you can use that user. But in my case, I just I'm going to use the same password that I used when I was creating the database. So I'm just going to enter that one right here. Okay. And then the next thing that is asking you here is the default database. So so this is very important right here. So the default database that is being used here, or that we'll use here, and as you can see here, you can read here, right, default database that dbt will build objects in. This is very important. Okay, so if you put the name here when you create your dbt transformations and click dbt run, what dbt will do is it's going to use the database that you put here to create your objects, and I will show you that when we go to the transformation section of this video. Okay, so to do that, I'm just going to switch over to my dpfer, and I will show you the database that I have right here. So I have dbt rental. This in this video, this will be our source database. So we'll be getting our data from dbt rental. But we don't want to write our transformed data to this database. So what we need to do now is we will create another database where our transformed data will be going to. And in this case, I'm just going to call this database reports like this. Okay. So this means that these reports will be holding our transformed data, and I'm just naming it reports for the case in which we were transforming the data and giving it to a reporting team to use it. Okay, so I'm just going to call these reports. You can name it any name. Okay, so I just created the database here, and what we will do now is we will switch over to our setup, and I'm going to call this one reports. Okay, so that is the database now that dbt will create our transformed data when we run dbt run. Okay, very important. And then for the schema here, you can go to your if you go to your database here, when you go to schemas, we only have one schema here that is public. If you want, you can create additional schema and use that schema, but in this case, I'm just going to use the public schema. I'm fine with it. So we will go here, and I'm just going to put here public for the schema. Okay, and then the next thing that's left here is the threads, and by default it gives you one or more, so I'm okay with that. Just click enter, and there we go. So the setup process now is complete. And one thing that you will see here is it is saying that your profiles file was written to dbt RDS. Okay, so that one is in this location, and you can go over to your this and just check. So quickly, let's just switch over to that. If you go to your terminal, okay, and so the dbt folder by default is written to your home directory, and if you list the files here, you will not see it, but it is one of the hidden files. So you have to do ls and use this -a option to see the hidden files. And as you can see, that one is this one right here for dbt. So if you go to that location, if you cd to that, if you cd to the dbt, it's a folder, so just cd to it. And then if you check, you will see profiles.yaml, and if you output the contents for that file, you can see now that we have Postgres database RDS right here. So that is what we just created. Okay, so you can see that this is the name of our project, this is the name of our database, this is the host name, that is the password we entered. Okay, and the type is Postgres, the schema is public, that is the port number. Okay, so that is just how the profiles looks like. Okay, so in case you had problems after this process and you want to update this, and you can just come here and edit this file and just save it. Okay, all right, so now that our connection is our setup process is done, how do we test that this connection is successful? So to do that, what we want to do is we want to switch over to our Postgre database, our Postgre RDS project. So you can see this project was automatically created. It was not there before, but after our setup, DBT created it for us, and you can go inside here and you will see that the structure for DBT now is available for you. So you will see that we have analysis, macros, models, and models we've been given some sample models together with the schema YAML, seeds, we have it here, snapshots, and the rest of these other ones. So these are the very basic structures, and you will see this across all the other setups. So if you go to Redshift, you will see the same setup. If you go to Snowflake, you will see the same setup. So the setup is pretty the same across the databases and data warehouses that you want to connect to. Okay, so then to test if our connection is successful, what we want to do is we want to navigate now to the project. So that is Postgre here, just cd to Postgre underscore RDS. Okay, and once you are inside this directory now, you can see that you have your projects and everything. You have your project, you have your snapshots, models, and everything. So what you want to do here then is to just run a dbt debug. Okay, so dbt debug will go through your setup and check if there's any problem. If there's a problem, you'll see the error. If all is good, then you will see success in all your output. So let's go ahead and hit enter now for this. And as you can see, it looks like we are lucky and everything is looking good. So you will see at the bottom here, it says all checks passed. Okay, so if you have any problem, then you will see an error right here or somewhere here. But looks like we are good, and we now have successful connection from DBT Core to our PostgreSQL database. Okay, so that's very important. We are now through with our first step or second step. I don't know which step we are right now, but we are done with our connection to PostgreSQL database. So now from here, the next thing that we need to do is then just go ahead and do our transformations. Okay, so this is the main part of the project. You are done now connecting to the database. Now from here, whatever you do after this is up to you. You can now go to your dbt folder and do any kind of transformations. And what I will do in this video now from here is I will just show you quickly how you can actually run basic transformation after you have set up your connection to your Postgre database. So what we will do is we will now go over to our Postgre RDS folder right here. And once we are here, okay, so this is a folder, right? So what I will do is I'm going to go over to the models, because this is where we will be creating our transformation models, and I will show you how to run a very basic transformation model. So I'm just going to delete what is in there, the example one. I'm going to delete it, and now we have a clean model here. There's nothing here. So what I will do is I'm going to create a transformation model here, and the data that I will be using is this one for DVD rental. This will be the source data that we'll be using. And if you're wondering how I got this data, go and watch that video that I made on creating PostgreSQL database on AWS environment. What I did in that video was I went through the process of creating the database in AWS. I went ahead and also loaded this DVD rental to that database, and on top of that, I also showed you how you can actually use dbeaver to connect to your database. So I did several things on that video. So that video is quite important if you just want to know how to set up. But DVD rental is a sample database that Postgre provides you. So if you just go to DVD rental, just look for DVD rental, you will see this website for Postgre sample database. So you can use this if you're just beginning your learning journey with Postgre, and it's pretty neat. So what I did in that video is I just downloaded the file here and I loaded it to our database using the restore command. So pretty neat. So once we have it now created, so we have the database here. So this will be our source data, and we have a number of tables here. So what I just did is what we'll actually do in this video, right? I'm not going to do anything random. I'm just going to lift the query from what they have done here, and we will shift that and use it in DBT to run our queries. So I just went to inner join here, and I lifted one of the query right here, the last one here. Okay, so I just lifted this one, and as you can see, I ran it here. So I ran this query the way it is inside my DB file. I just executed this, and it is giving me these results, right? So it's this results I'm getting. Now what we want to do is we want to now take this query the way it is and put it inside DBT and do the transformations for that. Okay, so the transformation that we'll be using are this one. So we're just getting the custom ID. We're getting the first name and the last name to make the full name here. We will get for the staff, we'll get the first name and the last name from the staff, and that will be the staff name, and then we'll get the amount that was charged the customer and the payment date. Okay, so this is the query that we will be running in DBT. And so let's go ahead and do that. So you can see here the tables that we are touching, right? We are touching the customer table. Okay, so that's important because we want to create our SQL our schema YAML to point to the tables that we'll be using. Okay, so we'll be using customer table, we will be using the payment table, which is also right here, and as well as the staff table. Okay, so these are the tables that we will be using in our DBT. So let's now jump over, and what we will do is I'm just going to minimize this, and I'm going to exit out of that one. So inside our models, I'm going to create a file called schema.yml. okay, schema.yml. And so what we will do here is we are going to now configure our source data here. So I'm just going to call this one version 2, and then for the sources, we'll just define the sources here, and I'm going to create a name, and I'm going to name the source here, let's just say Postgre. Actually, let's just say DVD rental. Okay, so DVD rental is the name. You can put any name here, it doesn't matter. It's just we'll just use it in our later stages. And then the schema that we are getting our data from is DVD rental. Okay, actually it's the schema is public. It's public schema, the one that we are getting our data from. It's public schema because the database is DVD rental. Okay, so that is the public schema that we'll be using. And then now the next thing that we'll need to do here is to define our tables. So I'm just going to go to our next, I'll put a space there, and okay, so we will now enter the name of our table. So the table, the first one that we need to enter is, okay, so we'll put the name of the table, and so we'll list the tables that we are using, right? So we are using customer, payment, and staff. So I'm just going to put that there. So we are using customer. Okay, we are also using payment as well as the staff. Okay, sorry, so we just name it staff. Okay, so that is now done. So some other things that you can do here, you can put the columns and whatnot, but I'm not going to put the columns here, right? So you can do it like that and put the columns. So if you want to list the columns that are in each table, you can use that, but this is very basic, so I'm not going to add the columns. I'm just going to define the sources. Okay, so these are the tables that are now we'll be using, and now what we need to do now is to switch over and transform our data. So I'm going now to create another file here, and we will call it transform, let's say just transform data, right, .sql. Okay, so we will call it transform data.sql. And what I will do is I'm just going to copy this query here, and I will paste it right here, and I'm just going to now modify this to be DBT friendly. So what we'll do is I'm just going to use a CTE for this, so I'm going to call this with prepared as. Okay, so we'll use CTE, and what we will do is we will put our select queries here, and we will put from, and here now I'm going to put the tables I will be using, right? So to do that in DBT, when now you are using the source data, okay, so the tables I will be using here, right? So just going to make that one small letter, doesn't matter really. But so we want now to define the tables that we're using, right? So we are joining a customer. So what we need to do here is we just need to now use the changer templating. So DBT uses changer templating, and you can read that on the DBT website. So when you are writing your DBT models, it uses changer templates. And what happens now during runtime is DBT will interpret the changer models and compile it into DBT, okay, DBT friendly. So we have to write it in a changer template format. And so the source now that we'll be using, we will be getting it from our schema here, and the source that we have, the name of the source here that we have defined is DVD rental. So we are going to put that one right here like so, DVD rental, and the name of our table is customer. Okay, so we are getting customer and we are naming this one as C. Okay, so I'll put a space right here. Okay, so we are naming this one as, we are aliasing this as C, and then what are we doing next? We are doing inner join, so we will just put inner join, and we just copy again this one here because we are getting another table, and the table that we are using here is this one for payment. So the same source will be rental, and now the table here will change to payment, and this one we are aliasing this as P right here. Okay, and then we are doing another inner join here. Of course, I'll complete the inner join. It's not done yet. I'm just going to bring the tables first. Okay, right there. Okay, so DVD rental stuff, and we are naming this one as S. There we go. Okay, so the first one here we are getting from DVD rental inner join, and the join condition here is on. Okay, this actually Visual Studio Code is very smart. It can tell us the ID that we are using. Okay, so you can see here now customer ID is a column in customer, and also customer ID is a column in payment. So we are using this to join because that is the common field between those two tables. And then we come down here, we will also do inner join on staff ID. So we will do now inner join on, and we are going to do this one here, staff ID equals so right, so we have in payment we have staff ID, and also in the staff we have staff ID. So this is the common field between these two, and you can check that, right? If you go to staff to columns, you will see that we have staff ID, and let's see if payment we have staff ID there as well. There we go. Okay, so we do have staff ID. So that is a common field between these two, and that is what we are using as a join condition right here. Okay, so we have our join condition now defined, and we have put the source of our data and everything. So then the next thing that we just need to do is to copy this, and I think this one will just stay the same. We'll just put this one right here. I'm just going to put that one right here like so, and we are just going to format this properly. Okay, so there you go. So now you have your a transformation query done here, and I'm just going to delete this, and now from here then you can just select everything from your CTE. Okay, like so. Okay, and now before we run this table, what I just want to show you here is the materialization for this. So by default, if you run this, it's going to be created as a view. So we can if we add the config block up here, it's going to show you you know, your materialization, how you want to materialize this table in your database. Okay, so you can do it like so. Okay, so what this basically means, this materialization, what this means is this model will be created as a table in your target directory when this one runs. One other thing that I will do here is that I will actually also add alias here. And what the alias means basically is we want to rename this table, right? So if you don't rename it, it's going to be created as transform data. So what I will name this table is payment. Let's see actually how can we name this. You can name it anything, right? So we have customer data and the payment information associated. So you can just say payment summary, something like that. And you can put the schema, but again, we already defined the schema and the database in our profiles. So I think we are good. I believe our DBT model now is good, and we should be ready to run. So let me just quickly walk you through this, because I think a lot of people get confused on what's going on here. So what is happening here, this is how the lineage is for DBT, right? So what it's doing here is we are getting our data from the source. So this is, you know, fetching our data from the source tables, and the source tables we have defined here in the source schema YAML right here. So we have put our source tables right here, and now in our transformation file here, we are doing some basic transformations here, and we are basically pointing it to the source tables right here. Okay, and just doing some joins. And now what we are doing on top right here is we are just basically defining some basic configurations. And in DBT we have several materializations option. So what you want to do is you want to define the materialization so that when you run your model, DBT knows how to create your table in the target database. So in this case, we will be creating a table in our target database, and the name of the table that will be created is called payment summary. Now, if you don't do this again, it will be going to be the table that will be created will be the name of your file right here, which is going to be transform underscore data. That will be the name of the table that will be created if you don't change the name right here. So you can do this, you can do these configurations inside the schema YAML also. So you can just put models here, you can put models, and you know, change the names here and just put the same information right here. So I didn't do that, so I just put everything inside the transformation query here. Okay, so now one other more important thing again that I need to mention here is when this one runs, it's not going to put the data, it's not going to create the data in the DVD rental. And the reason for that is, if you remember when we were doing our setup, what we said was when we were putting the name of the database here, right? So the DB name, it was mentioning that this is the name of the database where DBT will put your transformed data to. So this is where DBT is going to build your reports. So now currently, if you go to the database right here, if you go to your dbFA and you switch over to the database that we created, these reports, we don't have any table here, okay? So what we expect to see when we run our DBT, if everything runs properly, is that we will get additional table right there that is called transformed, that is called payment summary. And the output of that table should be very similar to what we see here. Okay, so now let's go ahead now and run our DBT model. So to do that, all you have to do is just clear this. And what you need to do now, because we are inside our project, PostgreSQL RDS project, and we have our schema YAML done. So there are two things that you can do. You can do dbt compile before you run your model, just to make sure that your models are looking fine. So if you do dbt compile, it's going to compile your model and detect if there are any problems, and if there's any problem, then it's going to show you and you can correct it before we run it. So let's go ahead and do that. And so we have done dbt compile, and as you can see, we didn't see any error. Okay, so there's just a warning here, which is fine, you can ignore it, but everything else is looking good. Now from there, what we need to do next is just to run dbt run. So you can just go ahead and do dbt run, and what this is going to do is it's going to run all of the anything that's in your model directory. Okay, so the only thing that will not be run if you just do dbt run, the only thing that will not be run is the seeds and the snapshots. Everything else will be run. Now in a situation like that, now if you have a lot of models inside your models and you don't want to run everything, then you can do select. So you can do select and the name of the model. So in this case it is transform underscore data. So that's the name of the model that will be running, because we don't have because you know we are just selecting to run one model, but in this case I only have one model here, so I'm just going to just run dbt run. Okay, so I'm just going to execute dbt run and I'm going to enter. Okay, so let's see now what's going to happen. Okay, as you can see right here, we ran into an error, which is an interesting one because we didn't catch it during our compile. So that means you should not always trust compile. But let's see what this error is saying. So it says here, the database error in model transform data, which is our model, and the error is cross database references are not implemented. So what this one basically is complaining about is that we are trying to get data from different databases, or join data from different databases, or write data to different databases, things like that. In this case, we were trying to get data from a dbt rental, and we are trying to write it once it's transformed to reports database, and it seems like Postgre is complaining about that. I have never run into this error before. It might be a feature. It might be a PostgreSQL database issue. I will look into this, but basically to resolve this error, what we need to do is to modify our profiles folder, because again we are getting our data from dbt rental and we are pushing it to reports, which was the other database that we created. So it seems like it's currently not liking that. So let's switch over to our profiles and modify it. So I'm just going to go over to my finder right here, and I will go to my home directory. So if okay, so to actually, so as you can see right here, I don't have it's not showing the dbt folder because it's hidden. So to refill the hidden files, just click shift command and period. Okay, the combination of those three. And I did a video on how to refill hidden files, so I'm also going to put the video for that in the description. So if you want to know how to refill hidden files on your MacBook, it's shift command and period, the combination of those three. So I'll put the video for that. And then we just want to go to dbt folder and open profiles. Okay, so what we want to do right here is instead of writing our pure data to reports, we want to do dbt rental, which is also the source. I will take a look into this. I'm not sure why it's not able to write into a different database, but if you know the answer for that one, let me know in the comment section. So that is what this error is saying right here. Basically, you cannot write your data to a different database. You have to use the same database that you used when you were doing your setup, which is quite interesting. I've never ran into this before. I know I've done for my SQL, Redshift, BigQuery, and it seems to be working fine. This might be just a feature issue with Postgre, but I will look into it if this is actually the case. So to resolve this error for now, again, we will just update our profiles and just have the transform table be written to dbt rental, and just save that file. And now when we go back to our model, let's see if now we can successfully run that. So we will just go ahead now and just do dbt run again, dbt run, and let's see what happens. Okay, all right, so that seems now to have successfully run, and we are able now to write our transformed table to the same database. Okay, so again, that if you run into that error, just change the database name to point to the source database where your data is coming from. So again, this might be a feature in Postgre. I will look into it. Okay, so now if we go to our dpfer, we will go to our dbt rental now, and we will refresh this, and we will go to our schemas, and then go to the table section, and you can see right here we have the payment summary now, and you can open this table. You fill the ER diagram. The ER diagram is just a, we don't have any joins here, which is interesting because you should have the joins. I guess it doesn't recognize it, but when you go to the data, we should be able to pull the data now. There we go. Okay, so you can see now that we have the data here, and you can actually query this table. If we open, let's see if we can query this table directly. I'm going to open a new script here, and we will select count star from this table here. So that is public dot payment summary, like that, payment summary. So let's see what this amount of records. So we get 14,596, and most likely that is what was entered right here, 14,596. And we had another query earlier that was running here. Let's see if this query, so if we do another subquery up here, just to select the count for this, count star from this query here, from this one, and says just TBL for this. Okay, and I'm just going to format this like that. Okay, so let's see what is the amount of records I will get here. 14,596. Okay, so our records are matching now. All right, so we are now, we can successfully now say that we have transformed our data, and we are getting the same amount of records that we were getting, you know, before the transformation. Okay, so that is just a quick way of testing if your transformation is working using DBT. So remember, we had our source data in our DBT rental, and then we wrote our DBT model to get the data from our source table, and then did some transformation here. And the basic transformations we did here, you know, we did the last name, we did concatenation of first name and last name to make the, you know, the customer name. The same thing with the staff, made some joins, and we ran our model. And now we can see that our transformed table now is written right here. So again, you know, we changed the name for that one right here. Now let me quickly show you, if we did not put the alias here, what happens. So if you save that and you just run it, the payment summary, I don't think will be deleted, but we will now get another table called transform data, because we didn't put the alias for that. So let's just go ahead and run dbt run, and as you will see, we have a table here now called transform data. So again, if you don't put the alias here for your model, it will be created with the name of the model. And now if you switch over to your database here, you will see that we have transform data right here created. Okay, so that is that now, and you can also fill the data and you will see the same amount of data. Alright guys, so that's how you use DBT to transform your data in PostgreSQL database. So again, in this video, we went through the process of setting up our DBT connection to PostgreSQL database that is running on AWS environment RDS. And then after that, we went ahead and did our setup. We checked that our connection was successful to our Postgre database. And then I went ahead and showed you how you can actually write a basic transformation using DBT. And this is what we did here. And we are able now to see that our transform data is actually getting written to Postgre database. So we can pick the data from PostgreSQL database, and we can see that when we run our DBT model, there's additional table that DBT creates for us in our database. Okay, so the only thing that you need to do here is just define the transformation, and then DBT will do the rest of the work for you. So it will create the transform data for your case, and then from there now you can go and use your data that DBT has created. So DBT will you just need to tell DBT the transformations, and then from there it's again going to create the table for you. So that's how sweet DBT is, and it's a very powerful tool. So again guys, if you are still new on your DBT journey, this might seem like it's quite a lot, but just take some time and it will sink in eventually. Alright guys, that's all I had for you in this video. If you found this video helpful, please give thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not, so that you can stay updated. Alright guys, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.